Hello and welcome to the Knights of Gab-A-Lot. I am Sir Benjamin,
I am Sir Nick.
and we are here to gab your ears off over all things storytelling and media. And this episode, because of a few real recent things, primarily the upcoming release of the Odyssey, we're going to kind of do a bit of a casual conversation about culture and how that influences story and many other things in that regard.
That was a very polite way of putting.
Yes, yes. Oh, and a little bit of housekeeping.
What?
Just a little bit of
Oh, right.
housekeeping
Yep,
for
yep.
the audio quality will likely be more echoey, and you'll probably hear sounds from outside because I have to record in the garage again, and we have next to no insulation in here, so you will likely hear engine noise and the highway and fun stuff. So yeah, there we go.
What is it that you have a concern about or a thought about regarding culture and specifically regarding culture and entertainment regarding the Odyssey?
Well, something that's been on my mind is it's usually when it's not necessarily just the Odyssey, but even just the whole thing when creators, studios, directors, whatever, when they claim that, hey, we're adapting this story from this other culture in this other time, and we're going to do it as accurately as we can. We're going to try to represent the culture, represent the people, represent the story as close to the source material as we can, and then not they just start changing things for no reason.
Changing things that are not native to the entertainment item or story in question.
Yes.
So the big example that was all the talk and will continue to be the talk. Right around my birthday, actually, November, will be the Rings of Power, right?
Yes.
Where one of the big critiques of it was the fact that it took what was originally in English, like a British mythology, and then it turned it into generic fantasy slop because it tried to be everything
Hmm.
rather than just deciding to be, well, something.
Yes.
And I think that the Odyssey is falling into the same trap. I mean, it's not even close to the same, or not even close to the only thing that's doing that. But a lot of shows and a lot of stories fall into this trap where you try to have everybody and then you please nobody.
I think when it comes to some of these things, like I would be more forgiving. I'd still be ticked, but as a fan of these properties, I would, I, I would be more forgiving if they straight up said, "Hey, we're just adapting elements. We're taking inspiration. We're going to go our own way. We're just going to take bits and pieces and pick and choose." Like if they were just straight up honest, like yes, as a fan of these properties, I would still be annoyed and be that like, oh, well, then why bother trying to adapt this property in the first place? But at least they would be honest rather than being like, oh,
Yeah.
we're going to be accurate and all that. And
Well, a good example would actually be Troy. Troy came out, and it's not the Iliad.
no.
It's Troy inspired by Homer.
Hmm.
That is very different than inspired by the Iliad or is the Iliad.
Yes.
So it actually ends up being like its own thing, but clearly inspired by something.
Yeah.
Whereas the Odyssey, for example, takes the route of calling itself the Odyssey, which is a foundational Greek mythology. Like this story is foundational to that culture, so I've
Hmm.
heard. And then not representing it. There's not one Greek person on that cast.
I am on the fence when it comes to like adhering to having to cast someone of a specific culture. Like I agree that I think there should be some Greek people on this cast. I think actors on this cast. Um, but I think because of the fact that film and stage and storytelling, like film is all about pretending to we're creating this story, we're pretending this is what it looks like. We're trying to convince the audience that basically if they can have an actor who can convince the audience that they are a this person,
Yeah.
right, because otherwise it's like, okay, we have to have, well, how do you trying to give a good example, well, how many movies has like James McAvoy, British guy, he's played so many Americans and done it really really well and convinced me like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're American, like
Yeah, of course.
same thing, it's all, it's that aspect of make believe. But I would agree if in the thing of like if you have an actor that shows up and they're like they cast someone and they cannot convince you that it's like you are not Greek. Your hair is bleached blonde and you got big. You look like a Viking, not a Greek hero. That's an extreme.
Well, I mean there are blondes in Greek mythology.
Yes, yeah, that was a poor
Like
poor
Athena, for
example.
instance, is supposed to be blonde haired, golden haired. So I mean, yeah, there's something to be said. So when I say like when I make the comment that there are no Greeks in the show, what I do mean to say more specifically, not all the cast members are doing their best to appear Greek.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? And how do you do that? First of all, it makes no sense. It makes zero sense at all. And it's hypocritical as well. That's the thing that really drives me crazy about it. I'm not going to try to say, let's cast Matt Damon as an African warlord. That would be stupid.
Yeah.
This is stupid, right? Like, can we bring up the most obvious one for
Mm-hmm.
this? And then maybe we bounce off
Yeah.
from there, I guess. Like, Lupita Nyong'o, very black woman,
Mm-hmm.
playing a Greek. She's a lovely, like, look, she's a beautiful woman. I think she's beautiful. She is not Helen of Troy, and that should not be controversial to say any more or less than it's controversial for me to say that I'm what's the guy who plays Black Panther or who is Black Panther again?
Chadwick Boseman.
T'Challa. Any more than I am T'Challa. Okay, like
Yeah, yeah,
what are we doing here?
yeah. And I think what part of what bothers me again if they weren't claiming that this is meant to be a close representation of the source material, it wouldn't really bother me as much.
Yeah, right.
And I think what even gets me really, and this one, I think when it comes to the culture of origin and everything, this is the clinch that really gets me is when and I can't remember if it's her who said it or someone else has argued that like, oh, you're upset because this being different or that that being different. It's fantasy. You're quibbling over this and there's gods and monsters. You can believe in gods and monsters and all these things, but you can't accept this thing over here. And it's a thing of like when you're dealing with a story that is so important to Greek culture and its
Yeah.
origins in Greek culture, it is not just a fantasy. Yes, it's myth. Yes, it's myth, but this specific myth is based on historical, or at least the Iliad part of it. I don't know how much, but there are historical elements and peoples in there, and it is a mythical version of some point in history, and that is not the same as fantasy. And myths, legends, everything different cultures have them. They're not just, hey, here's our little bit of fantasy content to entertain you. It was that culture's way of processing the world around them. And I think even big picture, you really want to get it, that's what stories are.
There are means by which we view and process the world around us,
Mm-hmm.
and we figure out our place in the world through that. And a huge part of that lens that people look, to use that overly used term, the lens, but the lens by which we look at is through our culture. And to say that culture is irrelevant over here, because this is what they are saying, Greek culture is irrelevant here. But let's use Black Panther, like we brought up Black Panther before, the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make the argument that African culture is take it or leave it, bro, would be insane. And that is even more fantasy, right? But that would be insane. It would be insane for T'Challa to show up at the throne room and he's got his African father and his white Canadian mother. That would be absolutely insane. And everybody knows that that's insane, but it doesn't go that way. And we have been told for so many years that like white people don't have a culture. So it's okay to just like play around with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true at all. That's insane. And there's no white culture any more than there's black culture.
Mm-hmm.
There are hundreds of different tribes in Africa. There's like Africans in England are different, or excuse me, black people in England, they're different than black people in Canada and black people in America. There's lots of different black cultures. There's lots of different white cultures. Like, oh my God, this is not complicated.
You take it even further, like just not just the black white thing. Like I've even been looking into like Asiatic culture. There's the continent of Asia. I know we could take add Russia into that, but we're referring to mostly like Japan, China, Philippines, all that. You meet people from there, like Chinese culture, very different from Japanese, Korean, and so forth. But then you take within those places like China, there's so many different smaller cultures in there because it is such a large place. Or take Canada. People from British Columbia have a bit of, like this. There's cultural similarities, but there's also the culture of BC is very different from the culture of Ontario or Alberta,
Incredibly.
and I think we often forget that we just look skin deep.
That's the issue, right? Like that's the issue. First we were told to be colorblind, to be sensitive to race, but then it gets flipped on our heads, and now it's like, oh no, you be colorblind. We will not, right? Because it's all about like our culture and this and that, but you guys don't have culture. And that's what's repeatedly being said. And it drives me absolutely crazy.
It's funny, I didn't want to make this yeah,
I
about
got,
race and
I
everything,
got
but
so
like
much
look,
more.
oh
I
dude,
got really fired
it's
up about
it's not
it.
just that. Like I've been it's been on my mind, and to be honest, it really saddens me. Like I know this sounds gonna sound really weird, but it really saddens me because I think it creates more barriers. It creates
100%.
barriers, and when things are basically made skin where saying like, oh, culture is basically skin deep, is based off of a skin tone or whatnot, and not recognizing that culture is there's so much more to it. You know me, I love stories. I love looking at stories from different cultures and how that culture influences their storytelling, and what is common for one culture is not common for another culture, and how, because with this emphasis on, oh, we have to, here we're going to take this story of this culture, but we got to make sure we represent a whole bunch of other people groups just based on skin tone in this story, and then it no longer becomes a story from that culture. It becomes this hodgepodge and doesn't truly represent the people. Could you imagine if, I haven't read it, I really want to, Journey to the West. I think it's a 14th century novel. I think it was written in the Ming Dynasty. It's a Chinese. I don't know much of anything about it other than like it's very influential in Chinese culture. I really want to read it, and sometimes I think like, man, could you imagine if someone in Hollywood wanted to adapt it and then decided we need to do representation, and so instead of it being a Chinese tale, it became a blend of all these other things and lost its cultural identity.
Well, you lose because there's something that when we think about another culture, like when we think about Russia, or we think about Nigeria, or we think about England, like there's a particular feeling that we get
Mm-hmm.
based off of the memory of what we understand those cultures to be,
Mm-hmm.
even though whether or not we've visited those places or not in person.
Yes.
And they're very different. And for like, there's good things about it, there's bad things about it. All societies and cultures have like dark sides and light sides, for lack of a better word. But that's kind of that's what makes that's part of their makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just pretend like that does not matter, then you lose that energy, you lose
Mm-hmm.
that power. It loses its cultural potency,
Mm-hmm.
which everybody instinctively knows. Because the minute that you try to cast a white guy as Django Unchained, it's obvious how stupid it is, right? Imagine
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio as Django Unchained, but he's supposed to be a black guy. Like this doesn't make any sense. And I know that and I know that the people who are creating, like Christopher Nolan and everybody, they know what they are doing because they are avoiding doing publicity with Greece, because they know that the Greece is going to be unhappy with them, and they probably understand why. And what I don't like about these conversations is when people like you or I bring it up, the accusation can be that we are being political. Well, excuse me. the reason why we're having this conversation in the first place is because people like you, the metaphorical you, not you, wanted to make it political. I hate politics. Like, I hate it. And everything is so stinking political nowadays. Like, there's nothing that isn't political, except maybe drinking coffee. Give it 5 years, though. There's an example that I think works really well because it's a fantasy, not Lord of the Rings. For those of you who watched The Wheel of Time, Amazon's rendition of The Wheel of Time. Now, I've read the first, I want to say 5 or 6 books. I'm not going to claim to be a diehard, but when you read the books, they have such a strong sense of cultural identity. Where people come from matters in those books. And in the very first episode, you meet the main character who's in a village. It's not like it's off the beaten path almost. And you go there, and almost every single race is represented in this village. Asians, Indians, white people, black people. It makes no sense. And the problem with that is visually, you lose the sense of where you are in the world of the story. Because when the story moves from that village to a city, it's the exact same thing. The exact same just makeup hodgepodge of every single race and culture out there. So now you lose narrative grounding. Nothing takes me out of a story faster than that. Like, sure, try to convince me that a little village out in the middle of nowhere has such a wide genetic pool. Like, sure, okay. Wheel of Time made me mad. I'm still a little mad about it.
I just had the thought, like, and even though it's less, that's more fantasy and less mythology, and this is more of just going by like convincing world building. When you're dealing with convincing building, yeah, you're trying to you look at our world, how it was built and everything, and like how many, like you said, there's a village out here, in the middle of nowhere, out in the Russian steppes. You're not going to have people from Africa there because they had no reason to travel out there, or you're not going to have people from Ireland out there because they had no reason to travel out there. And I think when it comes to fantasy, it's the same. That's why you look at in ancient history, why people groups there was less mixing, because they were so far apart, and there was the tribalism and all that. They didn't have crazy roads to travel, so that's why you would have less mixing. And I think that's something we forget today, especially when you're doing stories about ancient times or a fantasy world, because we are so interconnected, because we can travel so quickly. We forget about those different times, different places, all those things. We forget that.
And this is the thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just saying, apologies. Like, it's sometimes my brain trying to translate from thoughts to speech is not working, and right now my thoughts are not coming out as succinctly as I'd like.
I don't know when people are listening to this, but right now it's almost 10 p.m. and we both have jobs and families. And this guy right here is about to be a dad again. So, he's tired. The thing that gets lost is just beauty, right? Because even bad or cultures that are less, what's the word? Not favorable, but less appealing. They still have a beauty because they have a uniqueness to them. They have something that nobody else has.
Yeah.
And that's actually precious in a sense, right? And when you homogenize everything, you lose beauty, right? Like, I don't know if this is some linguist out there is probably going to be angry the way I say this, but like English is a very homogenized language. There's nothing really special about it other than the fact that most people around the world seem to learn it at a faster rate than any other language, right? It has its uses. It is not a beautiful language.
No.
Not a beautiful. It has beautiful aspects to it. You can make beautiful mouth sounds, but again, one thing that I stumbled across on YouTube was a guy who was reading the Odyssey in Greek.
Ooh.
And he read it in Greek, and he has like the subtitles and everything like that, and he kind of gives those pauses so people can read, but you're listening to the beauty and strangeness of the Greek language. And I thought, hot damn, like that is so. You listen to Russian, oh my gosh. I mean, it can sound terrible depending on who's speaking it, but like great language. German, even like I love listening to people just talk in German. You can't tell if they're angry or if they're happy, but my gosh, it is so much fun to listen to. And like English, it might just be that I'm used to it, right? I'm Canadian. I grew up Canadian and will always be Canadian probably, but there's nothing exceptionally beautiful about it. And to say that race doesn't matter, like at what point do you then start saying, language doesn't matter? At which
Yeah.
point do you start saying like traditional garb doesn't matter,
Hmm.
dance doesn't matter, song doesn't matter?
Just when you mention like language and everything, and so, I'll just quickly say this. Something I've noticed that there's a few films from Asia that I've watched, and I find it's interesting that most of the ones I've seen, characters that are from China speak Mandarin, characters from Korea will speak Korean, and characters will speak the language that they are native to. They will, and then they'll just have subtitles and everything. And I find that really interesting that they, I guess for lack of a better term, have that representation not just of the people but of the language there, which I think is really neat.
Well, yeah, it's just, and then different dialects that places have. Like in England, for instance, you can tell where someone's from by the way that they ask for their tea,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But there's another aspect to this too that I actually think is because you brought up it puts up barriers between people.
Hmm.
And like as a Christian, as Christians, and not to bring religion into it too strongly, but Christianity is a religion that breaks barriers, but doesn't break culture. It has broken culture, yes,
Hmm.
historically, but when you go around the world, you see the Christian faith being like represented and expressed in ways that are culturally exclusive, but
Yes.
it's the same faith.
Hmm.
And it started that way. And in
Yeah.
fact, one of the first arguments recorded in the New Testament is about race and culture, right?
Yeah.
It's you're telling them to be circumcised in order to act like Jews, in order to be Christians. And you're even forbidding them the Lord's Supper, right? Or favoring widows from this ethnicity over this ethnicity. Like Paul and Peter butted heads over this.
Yes.
And so I see something like I see that and I go, that's a good thing. And then I see us go backwards the way that we're going. And it sucks. You don't even have to be religious to appreciate that. I mean, you just have to have common sense, but
Hmm.
not to put a too fine a point on it.
Yeah, and I want stories when they say we want to represent the cultural identity to represent the cultural identity. You can have your "Oh brother, where art thou" stories where they just take inspiration and do a whole and transpose the Odyssey
Yeah,
into the South, and how and Odysseus is an escaped convict trying to get back to it, and everything. Like you can have that, you can straight up. But when you're doing a story that is supposed to represent the culture. I want to see the legends of China done. I want to see them adapted. I want to see them adapted accurately. I don't know any legends from African tribes. I don't, unfortunately. Really should change that. But I would love to see those stories adapted and keep the culture. And if it doesn't make sense to me, I've got to go and do some research to understand the culture and their form of storytelling. Like
yeah.
tell your stories. Tell your stories. Cultures everywhere. Tell your stories. We want to see those stories. I want to hear those stories. And you can tell I love stories.
Yeah, as you should. Like, I don't know how much more to say without getting myself in trouble, honestly. This subject absolutely upsets me.
I think it's a very big topic because you can talk about because there's so many criticisms that have been leveled, and when it comes to looking at stories from different cultures and different time periods, and we can easily level accusations of especially when the story is being told from a moral perspective that we do not share today. And we can throw shade at the writer or the story and everything because it doesn't share our morality. And I think we need to kind of get over ourselves and realize that good or bad, moral or immoral, these stories exist. These are written by people, and they explored the darkness of sometimes the good and the bad of humanity, and we need to be honest, not hide from those stories.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because part of the complaints is that Homer has problematic views about slaves and women. I have not read the Odyssey. I'm sure he has problematic views about slaves. Show it to me. Like, I'm not a child. You're not a child. You listening, maybe you're a child, but you're probably not a child. Don't let people treat you like infantilize you. That's a whole lot of what this is as well. It's just this cleansing of history in a sense that is not cleansing, sterilizing.
Sanding off all the rough edges.
Yeah.
No, I think we need the rough edges. I think just of history, stories, everything. That's how we learn. That's how we learn. We learn about ourselves. We learn about other cultures through stories, and we need stories to represent the culture, represent the time period, so we can all learn from it and get over ourselves.
Yeah, because isn't that what stories usually supposed to do? You get over yourself. The hero's journey, in a sense, is getting over yourself.
Yeah.
Go into the deepest, darkest part, be uncomfortable, get the treasure, come back, benefit your world.
And on that note, we're gonna call it. And I think that's a good segue. Those listening, go out, find the treasure, find the stories, the ones that make you uncomfortable. And if it makes you uncomfortable, ask why. Learn what it is. Get the treasure. There is so much to be learned from stories, not just entertainment, but growing, everything. Go out, find that treasure, find the stories. Thank you all very much for joining us and bearing with us as we went through this. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in. You can find more from Sir Nick by searching Great Tradition on YouTube. You can also find me there by searching Classy Chappy. If we name dropped anyone during the show, be sure to check them out and leave them a comment saying that Classy Chappy sent you. The intro music was by Kevin MacLeod, incomtech.com, used under Creative Commons 4.0. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.